Hey, good morning. Welcome to this so far untitled show about the Beatles. I'm your host, Andrew. So today we're gonna start off by talking about some Beatles news. Not that there's really much. In recent weeks, not much has happened. If you saw the Harrison bio on HBO by Scorsese, great jobs. Martin Scorsese did just an amazing job on it. It just was really good. I mean, it was very in depth, and it covered the first half was about his Beatles, well, pre-Beatles and Beatles career. The second half was about his post-Beatles and towards his death, and it was just really good. Lennon's birthday was this last past Sunday, and McCartney got married on the same day. I think just trying to divert a little attention from Lennon being a little selfish like usual, being like, "Hey, don't forget about me, I'm Paul McCartney," yada yada yada. I mean, Lennon's birthday was a little better for me last year because I got a chance to go to the city and go to Strawberry Fields and visit, Strawberry Fields, and also visit, like, the Dakota. Now, at Strawberry Fields, they did, like, a tribute to him where, like, it was just crowds and crowds of people, like, singing Beatles songs and Lennon solo songs. It's probably one of the greatest experiences ever. Me and my friend Jason went, and it was just really cool. And when I was at the Dakota, something interesting happened. If you're going to ghost or anything like that, maybe you don't believe, either way, I was standing where he got shot, and now, I'm not sure if you ever had an experience where, like, a ghost passed through you. I do ghost hunting, so I take this kind of seriously. So I know the feeling. I had that feeling. Now, can I guarantee it was Lennon? No, I can't guarantee it was Lennon, but I like to believe it was. I mean, 2 weeks later, I started writing music, and now I have 200 plus songs after about a year or so. Okay, so today in Beatles history, in 1957, McCartney and Lennon played, today being October 18th, of course. Today, McCartney and Lennon played for the first time together on stage as the Quarrymen. I mean, the Quarrymen existed before that, but it was the first time Paul played with them on stage. Which I guess is pretty significant if you think about it, because that's like the birth of something right there. I mean, it was a while before that it was last month, I think, that Paul and John met for the first time, but now it's like, it's kind of cool, right? Actually, I think it was a while, like, I don't know. Not sure exactly when. But it was the first time on stage, like, in an official show that they played together. So, the discussion that I'm going to start talking about in this first couple episodes is I'm going to talk about the different eras of the Beatles. And why ones are better than others. Why one is better than the others, sorry. And that's Beatlemania, which I think is the best one. Now, we're going to not get ahead of ourselves, and we're going to talk about first, in today's section, we're going to talk about the first two eras. We're going to talk about 57 through 63, which is the Quarrymen formation of the Beatles era, and we're going to talk about Beatlemania, which runs up from 63 till about 67. And I consider the end of Beatlemania when Sgt. Pepper came out. Paul met Linda. A little bit before that, John met Yoko. This is when it turns into like a different thing. It's not, the four young lads from Liverpool wearing their suits anymore. They chase the stadium with the, the beige outfits and stuff. It's just, it's them becoming a different thing. So, no, don't get me wrong. I think up to Revolver, obviously. I just saw my tattoo the other night. That's my favorite album. And I consider that part of Beatlemania. Like I said, it's up to Sgt. Pepper. Though, Revolver does have Tomorrow Never Knows. And there was Rain before that, and there's, some psychedelic stuff, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, there's really not much to say about the pre-Beatles era, unless you really, read into it a lot, because you're not going to hear much with the exception of a couple of recordings. I mean, in spite of all the danger and, some of the Buddy Holly covers they did and they were actually recorded, the Decca tapes and stuff. I mean, there are some recordings, like I have a bootleg of a show in Hamburg when Ringo Starr played with them for like the first time, which is pretty interesting. And I have another one, which is when it was still Best, it's Best, Sutcliffe, Paul and George and John, which is really good. But besides that, you're not going to see much of that time era, recording, because they were recording then. It's, but there's some really good stuff. And if you see the movie Backbeat, it explains basically mainly about Sutcliffe, about him meeting Astrid and stuff in the Beatles in Hamburg, which is one of my favorite Beatles eras. Might be number 2 next to the actual, like, Rubber Soul Revolver era, which is my all-time favorite, which is kind of a subdivision of, the different eras of Beatlemania. So, next, I'm going to talk about Beatlemania. I think that starts I mean, there was a certain like day, and I can't tell you right now because I don't have it on the top of my head, that Beatlemania was coined. But I consider Beatlemania really starting after the release of Please Please Me, when they had that first album, and they just started to get like their big hits, and they were playing in, they were playing in the Cavern Club, and some guy came into Epstein's shop and was like, "Hey, do you have this recording from Germany? It's this band called the Beatles, called My Bonnie." And he comes and Epstein's like, "Oh, the Beatles, I've never heard of them." He goes, "Oh, they're really big, everyone likes them." So Epstein goes down to the Cavern and he basically sees them playing and is infatuated by them, John especially, because, well, for other reasons that I'm not going to dive into. But, and he just basically wants to sign with them right away, and he has them come into his office a couple days later, and their humor really just, catches them, and he signs them, and he works so hard to get them a record deal, and eventually he finds George Martin at EMI, and boom, magic happens. So next selection, we're going into Beatlemania. Boom, it just becomes a big thing. You start hearing them everywhere. In America, they start getting big, and that doesn't really usually happen for English bands. And they're in airports, and they're just like this giant crowd around them, and this guy named Ed Sullivan, who obviously sees him and is like, "Who the hell is that? Who's that? Is that Elvis or something type deal?" I'm not sure exactly what he said. I'm paraphrasing a little. And some guy's like, "Oh, that's the Beatles." So he goes, "Oh, I got to give them on my show." So in February of '64, the Beatles come on a show. Hard Day's Night is released that year, which is one of my favorite albums. And with the Beatles is released, and it's just big. It's huge in America, and that's never happened before. Bands never came to America from England and made it as big as they did. That's made them different than any other band. So it's become more of a history lesson than a rant, but and they just have so much great stuff recorded in that era, from the Hard Day's Night album, and then Beatles for Sale, Help, Rubber Soul, I think I did that in reverse order. Rubber Soul, Revolver, and there's just so many great tracks on each album, I mean, my problem with Please Please Me is there's a lot of covers. Though I like Beatles for Sale, which has a lot of covers, but they're Chuck Berry covers and Little Richard and stuff I really like. But, so we get to Rubber Soul, and they record this album, and it's very different. I mean, it's not that they use different instruments, but it's like the writing is getting really sophisticated at this point, and their singles that are coming out in this era are really good. And Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys hears it and is like, "Wow, this is the greatest rock album of all time. I gotta write better." So he writes Pet Sounds, which I admittedly think is a great album, one of the best albums of all time. And then Paul McCartney hears that and is like, "Okay, let's write Revolver." And they write Revolver, and then the Beach Boys come up with another album, and it's just as good as Pet Sounds, and I can't think of the name of it, I'm sorry. And then the Beatles come out with this other thing later on that we'll talk about tomorrow, which is called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which is an idea of Paul's, because at this point they got tired of touring, and they wanted out. They didn't want to stop making music, but they wanted to stop touring because they weren't getting any better, because the fans were just ruining it by being loud and screaming and not enjoying the music, being there to see the Beatles but not to hear the music, which I think is ridiculous, because yes, they're four pretty cool dudes, but it's about the music to me, and without the music I don't see the point of going. So either way, so in my opinion, that's the best era, Beatlemania. I got that out of the way now. I have a thing on my Facebook, which the link will be at the bottom of the page, or you can go onto my account, my profile thing on here, and I have a link to my Facebook. I want you to go vote on your favorite Beatle era, because I only have like 3 votes so far, and I definitely need to get more. And tomorrow we'll catch up on you with the Psychedelia era, which includes Pepper, Mystery Tour, and the White Album. So until next time, I want to say goodbye, because I'm done saying hello. So have a great day. In the words of Ringo Starr, peace and love. Peace and love. And I guess Lennon would say give peace a chance, right?